What a game. Holy Toledo. Spurs came back from down 18 in the third quarter. They outscored Toronto 36 to 22 in the final 12 minutes in this game. DeMar DeRozan, first half, 3 points. Second half, 22 points. He finished with 25, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. Fantastic second half for him. He was so aggressive in the second half of this game. And he drew fouls on about 3 or 4 possessions in a row. It was awesome. Other things that jumped out from this game: DeJounte Murray and Derek White both had rough games in the loss in Memphis. Both came through with a really, really solid performance tonight. DeJounte had 8 points in the first half, finished with 10, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 and 9 shooting. I mean, and he plays great defense. Derek White, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, great defense. Looked for his shot the whole game. But I mean, let's get down to how the Spurs came back, because this comeback was ridiculous. I in the third quarter, I saw DeMar DeRozan dunk the ball so hard that it almost killed a guy, and the ref thought it was so disrespectful that it earned a technical. That was amazing. Like DeMar just went like full turbo mode and crammed it on a dude. And like he got up from the murder and like looked down at the dead body, and the ref was like, "Oh my god, don't you do that?" It was. I mean, first of all, it's an incredibly soft penalty, technical. Like, these are grown men playing at the highest level of sport. Yeah, I want them to talk a mess. I absolutely want those dudes to talk a mess. And DeMar didn't say anything. He just looked at the dude that he just killed. Just looked. He was like, "Wow, I just killed that dude." That's it. And the ref was like, "Yeah, that's a tech." And you could see the Spurs were just so frustrated because the officiating the whole game was a little weird. Pop got a really soft technical earlier in this game, um, and it seemed like nothing was going the Spurs' way at that point in the game, and they were looking frustrated. And I was like, okay, that's it. Like I did not see this comeback coming at all. There wasn't anything in the back of my mind that was like, oh yeah, they could still get this. Um, and then something absolutely nuts happened in the fourth quarter. Um, Pop put in a lineup, and I just want to make sure I get this right. I'm pretty sure he had Derek White, Patty Mills, Marco Bellinelli, Trey Lyles, and Rudy Gay out there as a 5-man unit. Derek White, good defender. Patty Mills, Marco Bellinelli, not good defenders. Rudy Gay, suspect. Trey Lyles, also kind of suspect. He's been pretty good, but as the anchor of a defense, no, I wouldn't peg that. Spurs go to a zone defense, and it just worked. And like, if that's how these vets need to play defensively for it to work like that, like, yeah, absolutely, more of that zone, and it just completely threw the Raptors for a loop. The Spurs tightened the screws on defense so much, and then they got real in transition. They had Derek White attacking in transition, um, and it was really, really awesome to see. Um, Obviously, Marco Bellinelli in the game and things going well. I'm sure people want to know my thoughts on this. Uh, I thought it was awesome, and I thought Marco had his best game of the season tonight, and it was because he didn't do too much. He played within himself. He didn't force anything. He played solid team defense for like one of the first times I've seen this season, and he didn't do too much. There was a play where he caught the ball at the top of the arc, and there was a defender closing out. I was like, "Oh, he's gonna either shoot this or he's gonna pump fake, dribble a step in, and brick a 20-footer." That's not what happened though. He swung the ball to Patty Mills. Patty Mills hit an open three. I was like, "Okay, cool." And then Marco hit 2 shots. He didn't hit 2 shots. He had 2 shots, wide open 3-point looks that he just missed. And, you know, it would be very on brand for me to just jump down his throat and be like, "Ah, Marco's gonna cost us this game." But like, you know, you if he's out on the floor, you want him to shoot those shots. Absolutely. That's what he does. It was standstill 3-point wide open shot, catch and shoot from Marco Bellinelli. Yeah. I mean, I'll if that's the shot he's shooting, he can play a little bit as a treat. Uh, and hey, if this zone defense is working with that defensive personnel, I mean, run a little more. I'm not saying Marco should play much more, but like if he plays that way, I won't hate him playing quite so much. You know? Um, and the flip side of that coin was Lonnie Walker didn't look so great in the first half. Um, he was forcing it a little bit. He had, some catches at the perimeter that he could have taken a shot. Instead, he drove in and got contacted, didn't get a foul call. There was one play where he came up a little gimpy. It looked like he was favoring his right leg a little bit. So that was a little bit worrying. And then he didn't play much at all in the second half. But the time that he got in the second half, he made the most out of. It was right after Marco hit a wide open 3-point shot to put the Spurs up 2. And it was him spacing the floor, DeMar DeRozan driving, Marco catches, pump fakes, defender flies by, and he stayed in the exact same spot. He didn't take a step in and go from a high efficiency look to a low efficiency look. And he knocked down that shot. And for the second game this season, Marco Bellinelli, who in the back of my mind and maybe the front of my mind, I was like, why is he in the game right now? Showed me why he was in the game right then. So that was really cool to see. But then after he hit that shot, Pop was like, "Okay, Marco, come over here. You're done. Like, good work. You did it. Lonnie, go play defense." And Lonnie is a fantastic defender. He plays really excellent defense, and he defended an inbound well. He got skied in for a rebound. And in the last 30 seconds of this game, played some vital defense. He contested the last shot that, if it went, would have won the game for Toronto. It wasn't a particularly good look that Toronto got, but he stepped up and contested it. So what larger implications does this game have for the Spurs? Well, that zone was something. I cannot wait to go over the tape and see how this zone worked, because Toronto could not get anything going in the fourth quarter. It was incredible. It was awesome to see that defense work. And we've seen Pop go to it, for a few minutes every once in a while, just to throw something different at teams. But fourth quarter, because if you usually a professional basketball team will find a way to beat the zone. But if they can't find a way to beat the zone, just keep throwing the zone at them. Makes sense, right? Yeah. And this continues the trend of LaMarcus Aldridge playing complementary basketball, setting screens, spacing the floor. He attempted 6 threes tonight, hit 2, 11 points on 4 of 10 shooting. Not his most productive game of the year, obviously. 11 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. But the way that he's playing, he doesn't need to put up huge numbers every night to be a contributor on this team. He plays really solid defense at the rim. I know people get on him for his defense on, pull-up jumpers, mid-range shots, and, three-point shots, but his job in the Spurs pick and roll defense is to protect the rim. His job is to drop and contain the drive and the roll. So he's done that job very well. And when he focuses on that and he focuses on setting other guys up with his play off the ball, spacing the floor, um, it's so much better for the Spurs. Um, Rudy Gay had a interesting night tonight. He had 15 points. Um, he hit his three-point shot is so weird to me. Like his form looks good. It's just the confidence with which he takes it or doesn't take it is um, it's weird. He hit shots tonight though, um, and one guy we haven't talked about yet is Bryn Forbes. Uh, that's because Bryn Forbes had 7 points in this game in 20 minutes. He did not play in the fourth quarter. Coincidence? I think not. Uh, yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for how long? I've been saying that Bryn Forbes, regardless of whether his shot is falling or not, the dude is not a starting shooting guard in the NBA. I said earlier in the game, like he's like if you took Danny Green's streaky shooting and limited playmaking and you combine it with Patty Mills on defense, that's kind of Bryn Forbes. Like if you take the worst parts of two role player Spurs that Spurs fans have at different points in time hated on here on this hell site and just throughout San Antonio probably. Um, it's if you combined their worst qualities. That's Bryn Forbes, and it's tough because last year he shot the ball really well, and that he did that one thing well enough to warrant playing time in the NBA, and injuries forced him into a starting role. That's what happened. Um, this year, his one NBA skill, he's not performing at a level that can justify like any of his defense. That it's just so bad his defense, and he's in there to hit shots, and he's not hitting shots. Um, and whether he hits shots or not, his defense is going to be pretty awful. So I I don't I would not continue to start Bryn Forbes. I don't really understand the logic behind continuing to start Bryn Forbes. Because they don't really trust him to finish games. That's Patty Mills if they need a shooter. And usually Patty Mills out there. Um, fourth quarter close game. So yeah, I don't. And then Trey Lyles tonight, 14 minutes, 4 points, 5 rebounds in the starting lineup. Um, Jakob Poeltl played. He started the second half for the Spurs, and it was interesting to see Poeltl and LaMarcus play off each other now that LaMarcus is spacing the floor. The reason that it didn't work offensively, that unit, was because they both played inside and neither really spaced the floor. now LaMarcus Aldridge can space the floor. So Pop might feel a little bit more comfortable playing Jakob Poeltl and LaMarcus Aldridge together. Yak finished tonight with 4 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks in 20 minutes. And 20 minutes is good for him because the last couple games it's been, between 10 and 15. Um, so it's good to see him get some playing time, get those rebounds. Uh, Obviously, his impact goes far beyond the stat sheet. Um, it's it's he is a high activity 7'1" center. Um, Somebody just asked how they convinced LaMarcus Aldridge to step out and hit threes. And Pop talked about it a little bit recently. He said, this is a pretty direct quote. He said, "You're going to bang down low, and it's going to hurt, and you're not going to get any calls. And out on the perimeter, it's kind of a sweeter deal." And I think LaMarcus Aldridge has realized that he doesn't have to bang in the post to be effective. And he's actually more effective if he doesn't do that because he's letting other guys put the ball on the floor, play a more dynamic offensive style than just bogging it down in the post. And Aldridge has found success picking and popping and facilitating and focusing on defense. He is playing some of his best basketball. When you're a complimentary player like that, sometimes you're going to have nights where it's like 11 points. And he didn't shoot so great this game. 4 out of 10 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3. But when he's playing like that, the Spurs play far better. So that if you had to point to one thing behind the recent Spurs turnaround, it's that LaMarcus Aldridge is playing a style of basketball that allows the playmakers around him to make plays, and that's pretty cool. I really can't wait to look at the film of this fourth quarter and see how this happened. LaMarcus missed a few free throws at the end here. Free throws were bad for the Spurs in the first half. But DeMar in the second half finished 11 of 14 from the free throw line. And that's just about being in attack mode. And I'm pretty sure DeMar DeRozan gets up for every single game that he plays in Toronto. You guys want to talk trades quick before I go? Yeah, let's do it. So the Spurs are now 17 and 21. They're still right there for the 8th seed. Pop, I'm sure, wants to go to the playoffs. The Spurs, as an organization, I'm sure, want to go to the playoffs. The recent turnaround that has hinged on LaMarcus spacing the floor and DeMar DeRozan attacking with the ball in his hands. That turnaround has done a couple of to change the situation for the Spurs in terms of being buyers versus sellers, what they're going to do at the deadline, their goals for the season, and what's possible. So DeMar DeRozan has been playing at an all-star level since LaMarcus started spacing the floor. He's been really, really good. That has done several things. One, it has raised the ceiling of this Spurs team. If they play like this, and if they tighten up the rest of the rotation, their ceiling gets a little higher. Like, they could maybe knock off Denver if that was their first round matchup. Um, like when the Spurs are on, they can beat the best teams in this league. They've proven that this week. Um, so then what kind of moves would they make? I don't think they're going to trade LaMarcus Aldridge. Um, as far as DeMar DeRozan goes, his increase in productivity has made him a more valuable trade asset. Um, people ask, you know, who would want DeMar DeRozan? Um, a team in the East who desperately needs scoring, who, for whatever reason, either wants to clear cap for this coming summer or thinks that they have a chance to re-sign him. Um, I'm not sure who those teams would be. Maybe Orlando. Detroit is interesting to me because even though they've been ravaged by injuries, like they're still like not super far out of the playoffs. So if they wanted to trade, um, you know, not very much, but like enough to get DeMar DeRozan. I don't even know what that deal would look like. But the reason that Detroit might do that is because they're looking at a rebuild. His money would probably come off the books in the summer. Um, and if they did want to like keep him, Dwayne Casey was his former coach in Toronto. Um, so that's intriguing to me. However, as they continue to kind of figure things out, I think the likelihood that they trade DeMar diminishes. But it also his play has also made him more valuable as a free agent, right? So that decreases the likelihood that the Spurs will be able to sign him to a team friendly deal. Um, so uncertain. Really not sure how that goes. I think a move that would be way more likely is maybe moving a shooter to a team who needs a shooter uh, for whatever you can get. Um, if if they were able to package, you know, if they were able to flip Bryn Forbes and or Marco Bellinelli for an asset of any kind, um, like if they could do either of those deals, boom, good as gone. Like you could come to me and tell me like, hey, we're thinking of trading Marco Bellinelli for. I'd be like, yeah, do it. Whatever you're gonna say, do it. Crunchwrap Supreme in a bag of basketballs. Yup. Second round pick. Um, Philadelphia needs shooters. Um, team with LeBron on it always needs shooters. Um, shoot, shooters, shooters are important in this league, and every team needs at least one guy who his only job is to knock down threes and space the floor. And it's okay that he's a total liability on defense. Every team needs one or two of those guys, but no more than two. If you have more than two of those guys, you have too many of those guys. Like you need one of those guys to provide some punch, and that's it. You can't lean heavily on them. Bryn Forbes has played the third most minutes on the Spurs this season. And, like, you wonder why the defense is bad. Saric is a good player. Yeah, he would probably fit well on the Spurs team. Uh, I think, uh, that kind of trade would be highly unlikely, though. Yeah, third most minutes, man. And, like, even at his best, Bryn Forbes is gonna score, like, 20 points on, like, you know, 4 or 5 made threes, and he's probably gonna give up as many on defense. And at his worst, he's, like, you know, 1 of 7 from 3 and giving up 20 points or more on defense. Um, so, as well as the Spurs have played in this past week or so, there's still a lot of questions about this team. Um, that would be really funny if the Spurs traded for Markieff Morris. uh, that that would be really really funny. Um, would they would they give a pick for him? I don't know. I mean, probably not a first, a second round, maybe. Um, I don't know. I don't anticipate any major moves at the deadline though. Um, it's just not the way the Spurs roll. We know this about them. Um, as when they were playing like crap, it was looking a little more likely. But I mean, they hung tough in Milwaukee for like 3.5 quarters. They kicked the crap out of Milwaukee. Then they kicked the crap out of the Celtics, and they lost to the Grizzlies. Obviously, terrible game. And then they had a ridiculous comeback against the defending champion Raptors, who were the same team. Uh, like I get that they lost Kawhi, but like they came into this game 25 and 13, 14 and 7 at home. Raptors are a good team. Spurs have played in their last 5 games. The Spurs have played 4 good games against good teams and lost one terribly to a also not very great Western Conference team. But I mean, the Spurs are turning things around, and I think the way that they've done it is sustainable because they're doing something that makes sense. You know, they're implementing the game plan that makes the most sense with this group. Um, and yeah, it's it's taken a while. It's taken probably a little too long, but they're they're figuring it out, and they have earned the right to continue to figure it out. Um, I really hope they don't give Britton Forbes a contract. I hope he makes a lot of money somewhere that is not here. um, and yeah, I do think we'll see more Lamarcus and Jakob together. Um, because like I said, it's now that Lamarcus is spacing the floor, there's room for a true center. The one thing is defense. If Lamarcus Aldridge has to defend on the perimeter a little more, that's not great. Um, Jakob Pertl on the perimeter is actually really, really interesting and kind of good. He had like he had a crazy block on Kyle Lowry, like on a step back three. Um, So yeah, I think we'll probably see a little bit more of Yak and LaMarcus Aldridge together. All right, guys, I am bushed. Um, oh, before I go, I'm doing. Lonnie is doing a workout at like F45 Deerfield um, to benefit the Australian bushfires. Not to benefit the fires, but and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try to do the workout. It's high intensity interval training, which sounds like not very fun, um, but it should be fun, I guess. Um, so that's a week from now. So that'll be a video coming out later. Um, I'm absolutely going to break down the fourth quarter of this game in its entirety because my God, it was crazy. Um, but yeah, that's it for me tonight. Thank you guys for hanging out, tuning in. As always, go Spurs, go.